Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD bodybuilder, back with another video. Today I'm going to be giving you a full science-based hypertrophy program based on the 6-day upper-lower split. And today I'm going to be showing you how to program it for 6 days per week for an advanced athlete in a high volume program. The upper-lower split is a popular setup in bodybuilding where you divide your body up into your upper body muscles and your lower body muscles. When you get into 6-day splits, upper-lower gets really interesting compared to other popular splits like push-pull legs or the Arnold split, because the upper-lower split will give you a built-in 3 times per week frequency for all muscle groups. Quick outline for today, I'm going to be giving you a full hypertrophy program based on the 6 days per week upper-lower split. We'll start off with a program walkthrough where I explain everything you need to know to run the program, including exercises, sets, and reps. Then we'll talk about the weekly setup, or how to spread your workouts out across the week. And lastly, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this program as laid out. If you want to see more full science-based hypertrophy programs, make sure you like the video, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is Dr. Swole's 6-day upper-lower program designed for high volumes, so well suited for an intermediate to an advanced athlete. And you'll see that the exercise selection here is specifically designed for an advanced athlete, and you'll see why. So we have upper body day 1, lower body day 1, upper body day 2, lower body day 2, upper body day 3, and lower body day 3. Here are the exercises, and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets per workout, so you have an idea of workout length. And down here we have our weekly set volumes. We have quads, glutes and hamstrings, chest, back, side delts, biceps, triceps, and calves. And you'll see that this is a high volume program, so not set up for a beginner, more like at least an intermediate to an advanced athlete. Starting off with upper body day 1, we start off with incline dumbbell bench press for the chest, 4 sets of 5 to 8. After that we have cable flies for the chest, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Moving on, we have a chest supported row for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Chest supported rows are a nice way to increase your stimulus to fatigue ratio. This is basically how well you can work the target muscle without generating a lot of fatigue. In standard barbell rows, you involve your lower back, which is really fatiguing. And when you take your lower back out of the equation, you can really focus on your upper back muscles. The fatigue side of things isn't so much of a problem for beginners, and that's why I really like recommending compound free weight basics for beginners. But for an advanced athlete, fatigue will become a limiting issue. So you'll see that a lot of the exercises here are chosen specifically to minimize fatigue generation. After that, we have the Dr. Swole pull down, which is a prime example of what I just mentioned, 3 sets of 12 to 20. These are basically a single arm pull down where you sit on the ground at a 45-degree angle to the path of the cable. You can see me demonstrate the exercise on a dedicated YouTube video. After that, we have cable press downs for the triceps, 4 sets of 10 to 15. You can superset those with cable upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. And then we have cable lateral raises also for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Moving on to lower body day 1, we start off with Bulgarian split squats for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12. I like doing these with a barbell on your back. After that, we have barbell hip thrust for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Then we move on to leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12. After that, we have seated leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 8 to 12, and then bent leg calf raises, 4 sets of 8 to 12. I like having the majority of my work for calves come from straight leg calf raises because you'll get more of your gastrocnemius. So when I include bent leg calf raises, you'll see that these are a minority in the calf program. After that, we have cable curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 10 to 15. Moving on to upper body day 2, we start off with machine overhead press, 3 sets of 6 to 10. And these are going to be a lower fatigue variation than your standard barbell overhead press. After that, we have cable rows for the back, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Then we have floor presses, which I think are an underrated exercise for the chest and triceps, 4 sets of 6 to 10. And then we have straight arm pull downs for the back, 4 sets of 12 to 20. You can superset those with cable upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. And lastly, we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Moving on to lower body day 2, we start off with hack squats for the quads, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Hack squats are nice for advanced athletes because they reduce the amount of axial loading on your spine and also take away the stabilization that would be required in a free weight squat. After that, we have Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. These are going to be your main heavy hip hinge. After that, we have leg presses for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Then we have leg press calf raises for the calves, 4 sets of 10 to 15, which make for a nice superset. And then we have hammer curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Lastly, we have preacher curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 12 to 20. Moving on to upper body day 3, we start off with machine bench press, 4 sets of 6 to 10. Then we have lat pull downs for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Moving on, we have chest supported rows again, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And you'll see that when I repeat an exercise, I will switch up the rep ranges in somewhat of a DUP fashion. And this is mainly just to give you some variety. Then we have easy bar skull crushers for the triceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Then we have cable upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And lastly, we finish off with cable lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 12 to 20. You'll see for my side delt work across the week, I trend towards higher reps. Lastly, we have lower body day 3, and we start off with Smith machine squats for the quads, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Again, we're using the machine for stabilization to reduce the amount of fatigue. After that, we have barbell back extensions, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Then we have leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 12 to 20. After that, we have straight leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 12 to 20. You'll see that I have 1 seated and 1 straight leg curl. Then we have machine calf raises for the calves, 5 sets of 8 to 12. And lastly, line curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10. You'll see that with this advanced program, there's a lot more machine work. Machines typically take away some of the stabilization, and thus can reduce the amount of fatigue that you take from each set. This can be helpful for advanced athletes because fatigue becomes such an issue. For beginners, I'd rather you focus more on the basic compound free weight movements because these are typically more overload friendly. You can end up moving more weight with, say, a free weight squat. You'll also see that there's more specific isolation work here. For example, with chest supported row, my Dr. Swole row, the leg extensions and leg curls, and with these back extensions. As an advanced athlete with a better mind-muscle connection, you'll be better able to specifically isolate muscles. Plus, you want to reduce the amount of fatigue that you would be generating from all those other stabilizing muscle groups. Let's talk about how to set this up across the week. So here's my preferred setup. For this upper lower split, we'll start off with upper body day 1, go to lower body day 1, upper 2, lower 2, upper 3, and lower 3, then rest. As usual with my upper lower programs, I usually prefer to start off with upper body day when you have the choice. The idea is that a tough lower body day could interfere with your upper body day coming after, but not so much vice versa. This doesn't matter as much in this kind of setup where we have so many days that are going to be sandwiched in between each other anyways, but it's still something I would try to adhere to. If you're going to have certain tougher upper body or lower body exercises, I'd prefer you put them on these first days, since you'll be more rested after this rest day over here. First of all, when you have 6 days across the week set up in an upper lower fashion, you have high 3 times per week frequency. And this allows for high volumes. You'll see that I usually recommend that you train each muscle at least twice per week. The idea here is that if you split up your sets across more days, you'll be more fresh when you actually hit those sets and be more productive across the week. For example, if we want to do 10 sets of squats across the week, you'd probably perform better if you split them up over 2 sessions of 5 sets each rather than do 10 sets of squats in one day. And you'll see that this affects scales with volume. So when you have more volume, it makes sense to split up over more days. If you're just doing 6 sets per week, for example, you probably don't need to spread it over more than 2 days. But if you're doing 20 sets per week, even 2 sessions of 10 sets each is quite a bit. And you might actually do better splitting it up over 3 days. Next, the 6-day upper lower is great for strength programming. Since you have 3 times per week frequency for the upper and lower body, you can really play around with some powerlifting type programming if you wanted to power build or build strength and hypertrophy at the same time. This program specifically was set up for advanced hypertrophy athletes, but if you're a power builder, you could sub in some strength type work on your squat, bench, and deadlift in the program. Higher frequencies can be nice for strength athletes because it gives you more chances to lift heavy. Next, the 6-day upper lower has great fatigue distribution. The idea of fatigue distribution is that you want to spread out your stress as evenly as possible across the week so you can end up having the best aggregate performance across the entire week. Lastly, with my modified upper lower split, since I moved biceps onto leg days, you get to train your biceps when they're fresh. The biceps do get fatigued after back training, so you may not perform as well if you have biceps coming after back on upper body days. Using this modification also serves to even out the days. Typically with an upper lower split, your upper body days tend to be longer because they're just more muscles to train. This can make it hard to fit in enough upper body volume if upper body is a priority. Moving a little bit of small muscle group volume onto our lower body days will serve to even out the days and make sure that we can give enough emphasis to our upper body. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of my modified 6 days per week upper lower split. The main thing here is that you risk running into fatigue issues if you're not careful with your proximity to failure. There are some benefits to train with higher frequencies for advanced athletes, but for beginners who might not be able to modulate their training intensity really well, you likely will run into problems when trying to train with high frequencies. I usually recommend people go to within 1 or 2 reps shy of failure, and especially if you're training with significant volumes as a beginner, you'll often end up being pretty sore after that. If you try and use a higher frequency setup like the 6 days upper lower, you're likely to have overlapping soreness between your workouts and you'll just run yourself into the ground. So when you're running a setup like this, you have to be really careful about your RIR, or repetitions in reserve. I typically recommend going to 1 to 2 reps shy of failure, But here with higher frequencies, you might want to stay a little bit further away from that on certain days. Staying a little bit further away from failure, like 3 to 4 RIR, might be useful on certain days of the program, especially those days in the middle, the upper body day 2 and lower body day 2. You'll have to play around with this yourself in an auto-regulated fashion, which means you'll have to see how you feel after certain workouts and modulate how hard you train based on how you're feeling. This is something that will take some experience to do, so I wouldn't recommend this program for beginners. I do have a playlist with just beginner programs, so if you're just starting out, check that out. I will be sharing the full program in my Facebook group, so if you haven't joined my Facebook group, check out the link in the description below, join the group, and you can download the Excel file for free. If you have some body fat to lose, or maybe you want to go through body recomposition, check out my new book, Dr. Swole's Fat Loss and Body Recomposition Manual. This is a definitive step-by-step guide for fat loss and presents, in my opinion, the best system for fat loss based on the literature, scientific consensus, opinions from my podcast guests, as well as my own experience as a doctor bodybuilder. Check the book out on my website, askdrswole.com. If you got value from this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share it with your fitness friends so they can benefit from it too. See you next time.